Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. It's Terry, your host, here with my sidekick Beatrice. By the way, I make my bed every day. True story. Beatrice just tears up the blankets, even though I give her a blanket. She just tears them up to make herself comfortable, and she makes like a little fort back there while I'm driving. So, bunch of stuff to talk about. So we're up to 753 subscribers, and by the way, I'm here in Georgia at Love's off of 75, not the little one but the bigger one at exit 310 that has the BK, which was smelling pretty good, but I resisted so far. Anyway, 1753, a lot of, getting up, like, many of us have like parents that were alive back then, especially us old guys. But 1753, the lieutenant governor of Virginia, of the Virginia colony, is a guy named Dinwiddie, and not Dimwitty, Dinwiddie, and there is a county in Virginia named after him. He goes to a guy who is a young army officer, fairly young, and he says to him, "Hey, George Washington, I want you to go tell the French that they have no claim to any lands on the Ohio." And when he said on the Ohio, he meant the Ohio River, not in the state of Ohio, or the current state of Ohio, which, as I've discussed in the past, was called the Western Reserve. So Washington, along with like kind of a navigator dude, cartographer, naturalist guy named Gist, G-I-S-T, they go up to a place called Fort Le Boeuf, which, by the way, means Fort the Beef, or the Beef Fort, French fort, near present-day Waterford, Pennsylvania. And he basically tells the garrison commander there, "Hey, just FYI there, mon ami, the Crown of England claims all lands adjacent to the Ohio." The garrison commander then says, "Well, take this message," or maybe he said something like, "Take this message back to your Lieutenant Governor Dinwiddie," and he basically says Louis XV has an unassailable, essentially, right to this land. That was the event that precipitated the following year the French and Indian War. And oftentimes people are confused about who was fighting in the French and Indian War. Yes, the French were fighting, and yes, Indians were fighting, but they were on the same side. It was actually the French and Indians against the British, the colonials. So anyway, kind of a big deal. Washington was, in the middle of history, way before the Revolution. So that's that. I had an epiphany a few minutes ago. I went inside to get a refill on my my Diet Coke, and I came out, and it occurred to me that they really need to pass a law that says at least one day a week, and each state could decide what day it is, because I'm all about states' rights. You cannot drive a white truck, white commercial vehicle on that state's roads. So you could have a white trailer, because most 53 footers, pups, whatever, they're all pretty much mostly white. But if the predominant color of your truck is white, you would be prohibited from driving it on a certain day. So, and the reason I came to that epiphany is because then I walked out of Love's with my emotional support Diet Coke. Every stinking truck in between the pumps was white. And I'm like, there are too many damn white trucks on the road. So, and I even think there's too many red ones. I know lots of people, some people like red. I used to drive red trucks when I was at night. At Schugle, I drove an orange truck, and then, of course, at GP Transco, I drove a teal truck. I have never had the occasion to drive a white truck, so I'm proud to say that. But I'm going to start writing to governors all over the country asking to ban white trucks just once a week, 1 out of every 7 days, and they can pick the day. So a couple of things came across my desk that I wanted to follow up on. So, I told you about the way stations in Kentucky, and I'll get to Kentucky more in a minute. But the way stations in Kentucky have now cameras where they take your picture as you're coming in, and they're looking for, not having a seatbelt on, a cell phone in your hand. I don't know what else they might be looking for, but you're not wearing eyeglasses when it says you're supposed to have corrective lenses. And so, stuff like that. And some people reacted really negatively. They're like, that's an invasion of privacy. And I was like, no, it's not. I mean, I could take your picture. So I'm damn sure the state of Kentucky can take your picture when you come on their property. And, if you don't want to drive through Kentucky, go around it. I mean, so there's that. But another way station technology that's coming online, and I think it's already been tested and it's in effect, although I don't know how widespread it is that in Wyoming, they now have sensors to check tire pressure and sensors to check overheating brakes. Now, this technology is not new. Railroads have had overheating brake sensors on tracks for a long time. Some of the folks that are more railroad savvy than I would know more about that technology. But so apparently, like, they had one truck come into a way station in Wyoming, and they had identified that this guy had 3 flat tires. And then the other thing that's kind of technology driven, and this is an FMCSA initiative, is to basically computer tag all vehicles, all commercial vehicles, so that, like, if you're at a company and you have a tag that says Prime, if Prime has failed, 70 inspections in the past month, any law enforcement officer, and I guess they would have to maybe buy the technology, each department would, but any law enforcement officer, when you go buy them, it would tell them Prime, 70 failed inspections in the last month, and that guy might be like, you know what, I want to do a roadside with him because his company fails a lot of inspections, whether it's driver out of service or truck out of service. And I'm in favor of that, and I'll tell you why. I read an article in the Wall Street Journal recently, and they didn't do the research, I don't think. I think somebody else did the research. But they looked into operators who drag Amazon trailers, okay? And we all know, we all are around them, right? And it doesn't surprise me to learn that this research discovered that, and what they did is they basically compared people dragging Amazon trailers to UPS, because the Amazon trailers, Amazon doesn't have a trucking company, but their trailers are ubiquitous, okay? So they compared it to a big trucking company. UPS is, I think the biggest. Drivers who tow Amazon trailers are 70 times more likely to be placed out of service for, like, violating hours of service, not being licensed, not having the right license, not having a physical, being on the clearinghouse, the drug clearinghouse, or alcohol, I guess maybe alcohol or somewhere. Anyway, 70 times more likely than UPS drivers. And so I'm down with bad companies being identified as they go down the road. I'm down with that, because, you know, it's a small percentage of truckers who make things harder for everybody, right? All the governmental intrusions, all the rules and regulations, you know, we used to have a saying in the Navy, you know, safety rules are written in blood. And, you know, it's true with the trucking industry too. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. I'd love to hear what you guys think. But by the way, please don't do this, because, you know, I've already told you, don't tell me about your personal freedom when you want to work in a highly regulated industry, okay? I've worked in several highly regulated industries. When I worked at MetLife and when I had securities licenses at other companies, I would have to go get fingerprinted, okay? I've been fingerprinted because my wife and I, you know, adopted children. I mean, I've had people like all over me like a bad suit most of my life. And, you know, I'm just like, I just deal with it. If it's something you want to do, just get used to it. It's part of the job, right? I mean, you think about it, what we do, we get paid a lot of money for what we do. Part of the reason is because there is some brain damage, just like being a lawyer. Not everybody can be a practicing attorney. So the more barriers to entry there are, and the more regulation you got to put up with, although once you become a lawyer, some states there's no regulation. I mean, there is, but you don't have to do any CLE or whatever. But what I'm saying is when you're in a highly regulated industry, like a stockbroker, a doctor, you know, a truck driver, whatever, you get paid more partly because there are barriers to entry. Not everybody can do this. Like I used to say when I was in the Navy, if this shit was easy, everybody'd be doing it. Everybody would have their own ships. And you know, everybody'd have an F-14 in the garage, or an F-18, or, you know, whatever. Okay, so that's that stuff. So the Kentucky Regional, I got to tell you about this. So I told you I picked up that load over in Smithfield, Virginia. I was headed to Kansas. I just get out of Kentucky, cross the river in Louisville. I'm over by, excuse me, Evansville. And the pilot and the Flying J there in Evansville on 41 and I-64 had really cheap fuel. So I'm fueling my reefer. And I'm just moseying along, right? Because I didn't have to have that load delivered till Tuesday. So I get a call right after I get back in the truck. I got my emotional support soda with me, and I get back in the truck, and I'm like, okay, B, you ready to go? I get a call from, and the identifying information says Prime Inc. But this is on Saturday, so nobody at Prime calls you on a Saturday unless it's like, you know, a four alarm fire. So I pick up, I talk to this guy, and he's like, hey man, got a little problem. We got a driver that just so happens to be right where you are, but he doesn't have enough time to get this load delivered tonight, so Saturday night, I did it back Sunday night. This was yesterday. He doesn't have enough time to get this load delivered here on Sunday night to Walmart in London, Kentucky. And you know, if you're in trucking, if there's one customer you don't want to fuck up with, it's Walmart, right? They're the biggest dog on the block. And you know, and the other thing too is I like going to Walmart. Walmart is a great location to deliver at. And so, interestingly, the load paid a little bit more per mile than what I was getting going out to Kansas, but, you know, it was going to an area that doesn't have great reload possibilities. However, I was dragging a 162 trailer that was about ready to fall apart, I feel like. I mean, it was roadworthy, but there were a bunch of things that needed to be done. And in fact, I was going to try maybe to just get it down to Springfield when I got delivered outside of Kansas City. But I got a 220 trailer, so that was cool. The load weighed less, paid a little more per mile, and I was going to a receiver that I actually like to go to. The one I was going to is one that I do not care for, but I'm trying not to be choosy at all with loads right now. I mean, I think there's plenty of work, but I'm not going to turn work down unless it's, some really serious reason. So I run that over to Walmart, and my clock expires. I PC over to a truck stop, but then I get a load. So I ran all the way across Kentucky. Then I get to Indiana. I go back to London, Kentucky. Then I get a load picking up in Grayson, Kentucky, and but I first have to go to Corbin, Kentucky to get a washout because I couldn't wait around. Actually, where I was, there was a washout facility, but they didn't open until 07, and I needed to be on the road way before then. So I backtracked. I went south to Corbin, got a washout, ran all the way up to Grayson, got my load, and then headed back the exact same route to get down through Kentucky, because I'm on the Kentucky Regional this week apparently. And now I'm, like I said, outside of Atlanta. I got to deliver tonight. I have zero doubt that I will get a load going back to Kentucky. I mean, it's just, you know how it is, right? When you get on the regional for some state or a couple of states, it seems like you're just back and forth for like a week. You're like Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Indiana, back to Ohio, back to Illinois, back to Pennsylvania. I mean, it's like everybody starts knowing you by your first name at all the truck stops. So yeah, so that's my story about the Kentucky, the Bluegrass Regional, I call it, the Bluegrass Regional. Finally got to see some sun today, so that was cool. So anyway, I'm gonna get this thing delivered tonight. I think it delivers at 1:15 a.m. and then we'll see what we get out of Atlanta. Although it works out. I mean, I had a long deadhead and kind of backtrack and stuff, but it works out because Atlanta is a high outbound area, which I discussed, I don't know, a while back. It's one of the 5 highest outbound areas. So hopefully I'll get a good load out of here, and see, there's a white truck with a prime trailer on it. I could kill 2 birds with 1 stone if my legislation passes. So yeah, hopefully we'll get a good load out of here. B and I are just hanging, and stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.